Bases dropped on a new round of SDH AM. Sorry about the mood lighting. I thought that if I didn't turn that on back there, things would look a little better. And the hair, of course, is what the hair is. John, hear you there. Thanks for dropping by on a Wall Pass Wednesday. And so, yes, I am not in the imitation palatial estate. It is not Office HD. It is on the road, as we promised. We are in Montgomery, Alabama, and it is an opportunity for us to go and hang out with family on a weekend. So just, as we are here, here's the rundown for today, just so you have it. Obviously, we're going to catch up with everything AFCON. And right now in the 73rd minute, Burkina Faso has finally scored up a man. Equatorial Guinea was playing with 10, and now Burkina Faso has scored with 17 minutes and added time to go. So Burkina Faso right now leading Equatorial Guinea in the, let's see, I'm trying to think. It's got to be is it the first match of the day? I think it's the first match of the day. So start there, 7:30. So 7:30 a.m. Eastern time. And that's the other part about all of this. Being in the central time zone, it is a grind because when you look at the clock and everything's backed up an hour, absolutely just whew. So it's a bit of a different perspective here in God's time zone, as the boss says. So keeping an eye on AFCON this morning. At 10:30, we've slid Niko to the 10:30 slot because obviously tomorrow being what tomorrow is, then, you're celebrating the Christmas holiday for those of you that celebrate the Christmas holiday. So Niko is sliding to today at 10:30. We sent him an email last night to remind him. We'll see if he remembers or is maybe just awake or not doing family stuff. So in a perfect world, Niko joins us. So it's Wednesdays with Niko coming up at 10:30 Eastern. Also on the board today, toward the end of hour number 1, something really cool. And it's a bit of marketing 101. And it kind of goes behind the idea of what goes into those parts of a team in a first-year growth that we may not necessarily think about. And it was a chance to catch up with our friends at AC Boise as they get ready for their first season. We've caught up with the head coach, and we've tried to kind of let you see what's going on as they're getting ready for their launch. And their first match, I want to say, is in Sarasota on March the 7th. And so they have to have everything ready. And there are a lot of things we don't think about. Rosters and players and travel and infrastructure and all those kinds of things. Goal taken off the board on the VAR. So back to being goalless. So 15 to go. And Equatorial Guinea survives VAR. And so now it's still goalless Burkina Faso and Equatorial Guinea. What about a jersey? And what about the kit? And so with Atlanta United, it's been the 5 stripes. With your favorite team, it's always that jersey. But there's a lot that goes into that. And so toward the end of hour number 1, we're going to catch up with Jennie Telleria. And she is the chief marketing officer right now and the lead kit designer for AC Boise. So what you see out there right now that you can pick up for whatever, the home jersey or what have you, Jennie has been the lead designer in that project. And we don't think about everything that goes into presentation. There's always that quote, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And so to do that, AC Boise is going through that right now. They had their first big reveal with their kit, and they had season ticket holders, their 17s, their originals, had a big reveal. And with the scarves and everything, they could go and get their jerseys. But what goes into making that jersey? And so we catch up with Jennie and find out the story behind AC Boise's jersey. And so it goes into the design, and it goes into all of the versions of it and all of those things that we may not necessarily think about, whether it's the 5 stripes kit, the concrete, and I call it concrete and cherry pie. A lot of folks call it concrete and strawberry. What goes into that inaugural kit. And so Jennie joined us yesterday from Las Vegas and on in that whole creative process. And so Jennie Telleria is going to be joining us here later in hour number one. That interview, like I said, goes behind the scenes about what it's like to make a kit and what it means to AC Boise and all of the little nuances that you sit there and you go, oh, okay, that didn't register with me. And this is why this was done one way or the other. And so we get into that with Jennie coming up here in hour number one. Niko Moreno, if he's available in hour number two. But we've got to talk about Major League Soccer anyway, because there are some musical chairs that is apparently going on that we've got to get into. And we'll get into all of the folks that are changing locations and what it could mean down the line. Remember yesterday, Atlanta United picked up Lucas Hoyos from Newell's on a free, and so he's added to the keeper discussion coming up here in 2026. Jaden Hibbert, Lucas Hoyos. So GK Union brought to you. So we got that with Atlanta United, but there was some stuff yesterday that we got to get into when it comes to movement, possible movement, who's got what, where, all those kinds of things. So we'll get into all of that coming up here this morning. Obviously, once again, since it is one of those holiday type things where the question has been asked by Bart, and I will go ahead and ask it. Abby has answered it already. If you were gifting Atlanta United this time of year, what would you gift them? Abby mentioned a dependable striker. And so that would be, whatever you would gift your club, whomever your club is. Rich, if you're out there, what would you gift Philadelphia? Anybody out there with your favorite club, what would you gift them? Will, what would you gift Huntsville City Football Club? Other than maybe Alan Carlton coming back or an Alan Carlton clone staying and Alan Carlton going overseas. So whoever your favorite club is, Monday, what would you gift your favorite club coming into this particular holiday tomorrow? So, which reminds me, tomorrow, no show, obviously, because we're going to be spending time with family, as should you as well. And then we're back on Friday once again from this particular location. And our buddy Nino Torres is going to join us at 10 o'clock. We're going to tour the planet. We'll go through AFCON. We'll catch you up with everything there as we're getting toward the end of match day one in the group stage. And so we'll get you involved in that as we go here. Get you rolling here this morning. Okay, so opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And as we go, now you know that the boss is here. So because the Rowdy Man has been staring at the door ever since the boss left. And so now that the boss has returned, first thing Rowdy does is he goes off the rails. But yes, so just to give you a quick update, juice boxes as we go. Next match is going to be at 10 o'clock, and it's going to be Algeria and Sudan. Algeria, big favorite at a minus 435. The draw is a plus 459. Sudan is a plus 1120. Ivory Coast at 12:30 is a minus 357. And we'll check these juice boxes once again before we go. Ivory Coast a minus 357. Draws a plus 403. And Mozambique is a plus 1110. That literally just changed as I was staring at it. And then 3 o'clock this afternoon, Cameroon and Gabon. Cameroon is a plus 112. Draws a plus 193. And Gabon to win is a plus 281. So that is your quick juice boxes for today. For those of you that might have missed what happened yesterday across the board, it was as things continue to refresh and figure themselves out here. Yesterday, Tunisia beat Uganda at a minus 143, but Syria hung on and beat Tanzania at a minus 263, 2-1. Senegal shut out Botswana at a minus 909 by the score of 3-0, and DR Congo beat Benin with a minus 161, and it was a 1-0 scoreline there. So that means that when you look at standings for the folks that have played, and I'm kind of reaching over and trying to lay everything out for you. So in Group A, Morocco with 3 points, Mali and Zambia with 1 point each. The Comoros, once again, no points, losing to Morocco last time out. Group B, South Africa and Egypt have 3 points. Zimbabwe and Angola have no points because it was 2 wins and 2 losses. Group C, same thing. Tunisia and Nigeria each with 3. Tanzania, Uganda with none because of wins and losses. Senegal and DR Congo in Group D, they have 1 win. Benin and Botswana both have losses. And so today it is Group E and Group F. getting things underway. It is Algeria, Equatorial Guinea, Burkina Faso, and Sudan in Group E, and then Cameroon, Gabon, Mozambique, and the Ivory Coast in Group F. And then that will get you through match day 1, and then we'll start things back over with match day 2. All right, so as we're rolling here this morning, obviously some of the big news yesterday came out of the NWSL. And we now have in, some manner, way, shape, or form an idea as to what the designated player project is going to look like. The HIP idea. And I know I've already used the Huey Lewis joke, so I can't use it again. So when you look at the NWSL and their adding of the rule, and once again, this comes from our friends at The Athletic. So here's what went down. This is from Emily Olson and Tamara Griffin. USL has introduced the roster mechanism to allow teams to pay certain players up to $1 million above the current salary cap. So I guess this is your Larry Bird exception. This is the this is your DP. This is your DP slot. Morning, D. Graham. And so this is your DP slot. This is your Larry Bird exception now for the NWSL. And as it was discussed earlier, it's a high impact player rule, the HIP rule, created in part once again as a way to keep Trinity Rodman and possibly bring in Kat Macario, because Kat Macario come January can sign a pre-contract with her time at Chelsea ending summer of next year. So Kat Macario could be someone that could be brought back into the United States using the HIP rule, as opposed to losing players like Naomi Girma, like Kat Macario, Lindsay Heaps, etc. USL has this mechanism where you can pay folks up to $1 million above the salary cap. And I would also imagine that part of the discussion would be the notion that you could handle it financially. And I think that with the owners now in the NWSL, and we probably should get our friend Jen Hildreth to discuss this, not necessarily the HIP rule, but going forward and how you continue to grow the league with Boston coming in. They've signed Ella Stevens 2 days ago, and Denver coming in and them signing players and bringing players over. So now, with the HIP rule in place, the league source previously said the mechanism was bigger than one player. We remember that quote. New rule will allow players to be paid above the salary cap as established by the collective bargaining agreement. And we'll get into the NWSLPA's thoughts in a second. The NWSL releases details of the criteria with metrics, including featuring in Ballon d'Or Top 30, appearing on annual lists compiled by sports publications ranking the world's best players in game time for the U.S. women's national team. Timeout. As we have had the discussions with Bart Keeler from the Soccer for US POD, when we've been kind of breaking down this idea, I have been of the mindset that you don't need to go here with your metrics and your point systems and all this kind of stuff. If a team wants to have a player that they want to designate as a DP, and I'm just going to call it a DP because HIP will probably get me confused and start me giggling. So if you have the Larry Bird exception, if you have this DP, why should it be pinned into a mathematical equation instead of just sitting there and trusting that the team should have their own decisive idea as to, well, look, if I want to bring in this player from Europa, one of the Saturn's moons or something, if I want to bring in a player from wherever I bring this player in from, I mean, like I said, it could be a Temo Shawinga, it could be a Barbara Bond, it could be a Marta, could be one of those younger players from a league or an undernoticed league, an underappreciated asset. Let's look at it that way. So if you have this underappreciated asset from whatever league they're in, why shouldn't I, as a general manager, owner, what have you, why shouldn't I just sit there and say, yeah, I want that player attached to this Larry Bird exception, to the DP rule, what have you? Because if you look at the players have done once they have come into the league, then it has improved their standing to where you would attach that tag. If you look at what Temo Shawinga has brought into the NWSL, that because of what she has been able to do in the NWSL, she has gotten those metrics. And then now I would have thought that if Kansas City wanted to pay her that Larry Bird exception or to be that DP, they would have gone ahead and done it anyway, transfer fee, what have you, instead of sitting there and it's like, okay, well, now that you've created all these numbers and been this successful offensively, now you are of that Larry Bird exception status, that hip status, the DP-ness, and now you will be rewarded as such. It should not be a cause and effect. If you want to bring in a player and you are high on that individual, why should you not just go ahead and have that responsibility? I don't know if it's just a matter of trust with the league or what have you. Equatorial Guinea has scored, by the way, down a man. So this could be a big upset for Equatorial Guinea. Playing with 10, 2 minutes to go plus stoppage, they lead Burkina Faso 1-0. I don't know why you are pinning the responsibility to mathematics instead of individual responsibility within the teams. If a team wants to sit there and take that spot and put it on an individual that they deem, why not just let them do it instead of having that individual? It's like, no, you have to look at this mathematical equation, and then you have to sit there and go, okay, if A plus B equals C, then you're a DP. But right now, going in, the league has set this metric through a mathematical equation to determine who gets to be this DP Larry Bird status. You got me. All right, I resume. League said that the rule change could add up to $115 million in additional compensation through the existing CBA, which runs through 2030, and was, quote, designed to provide clubs with expanded flexibility to attract and retain high-impact players. So if you are, timeout number 2, if you are trying to attract and retain high-impact players, I get the retention part. But if you see something in a player that you are trying to attract, once again, underappreciated asset, if you have that underappreciated asset and you're trying to draw them into the league and they're not in those top 30, they're not a part of the higher numbers in that mathematical equation, but you want to go ahead and pay that individual the DP money, shouldn't you be able to do it? This is using the league's words about designed to, with expanded flexibility to attract and retain high-impact players. I would have just given, it's like, look, you trust your GMs, you trust your owners. I mean, if Michelle Kang decides that she wants to, if in discussions with her front office in Washington, if they want to pay Croy Bethune, and literally this might end up being a conversation that we have with Bart again on Monday. If you insert player here, if you want to pay a Croy Bethune, if you want to pay if you want to pay a Hal Hirschfeld, because Washington is going to have some issues. They're going to have some thoughts that they're going to have to just process here because of the talent that's on that roster, the young talent that's on that. Do you try and make everyone as equitable going up and save that DP status for somebody like a Trinity Rodman? Washington, to me, is going to be one of those clubs that's going to instantly challenge the cap. And D. Graham, I'm with you. I'm skeptical. And D. Graham says he's skeptical of how the rule is going to be implemented. I think that the responsibility should be with the clubs as to who they want to have designated as this DP Larry Bird exception. Like I said, I can't do the hip thing without starting to giggle. But if you want to in an equitable manner, you want to make sure that you keep everyone on your roster happy and you have that generational superstar. I'm imagining that you're going to, it was a header off a header off a corner. Wow. Good for right now. It is 8 minutes added, and they're already +2. Equatorial Guinea playing with 10 and leading 1-0, 6 minutes to go. If you have this rule, I imagine what the teams like Washington are going to do. That Washington might be that first club in the NWSL, and I think the more that I'm talking this through, the more that we probably need to have Jen Hildreth on. The more that we talk this rule through, the more that you are going to probably either increase the cap. Washington is going to go right up against the cap. I can guarantee you that right now, especially in coming seasons when you have those young players get into that second contract. It's going to do one of two things. Washington is going to go right up against that cap number, plus the Larry Bird exception to try to keep the generational superstar. Or they're going to have to make some hard decisions in clubs that might be able to take advantage of the situation of Washington not being able to keep everyone. This, for me, is the secondary part of the Palace intrigue here. A team like Washington, a team like Gotham, that has come to the table and said, you know what? We want to challenge what's going on in Major League in the NWSL. Freudian slip there by me. We want to challenge what's going on in the NWSL. And I mention that because we'll discuss Messi and Friends and Gio Lo Celso probably in hour number 2. So the NWSL, Washington, I think, is going to be the litmus test in this. Because of everything that they have accomplished, everyone that they've hung on to a certain point, you try to make everyone or as many everyone's as possible happy. Try to be as equitable in your financial distribution, in your salary cap. You're paying everybody about the same. Then your star, which is your DP, your Larry Bird exception. So then Washington, for me, does Washington get as imaginative as we have seen with Messi and Friends in Major League Soccer to try to figure out, okay, how do we keep, if we keep Trinity Rodman and then we try to bring in somebody else, or we keep Croy Bethune, or we keep Hal Hirschfeld, or we keep those individuals, do they go down the Messi and Friends road of trying to do the NIL deal, as they probably will end up doing so with Trinity Rodman, and it looks like Burkina Faso has scored an equalizer halfway through the 95th minute. So 2.5 to go, and Burkina Faso looks like they have possibly salvaged a point against Equatorial Guinea. So the question is, when you're trying to figure out how you want something like this to go, how do you salvage it? How do you keep your team as one? How do you keep those younger stars in camp and still try to be as successful as you've been? That, to me, is the larger point. So that to me is one of the larger issues here. It's great that you've got this. I still think the metrics you don't need the metrics that you have. The point system for me is just it. If you're taking individual responsibility away from the front offices in the league by doing this, and you're also sitting there and saying, "I'm jumping the curb. I'm bringing in a Timo Shawinga who hasn't rated in your metrics, but I want to bring her over and pay her that Larry Bird exception, that DP money." If I see that and I want to do that, yeah, Abby, I'm right there. Yeah, absolutely true. It is a bot. And since I'm here, I'll probably take care of it when we're done, or when I'm in the Boise interview. So, D. Graham, next year's cap 3.5, 4.5 if this rule is implemented, and you're allowing them to basically give 25% to one player. It doesn't math to me. No, it doesn't. But I mean, and that's the thing. This is the larger issue. This is one of the issues that I see with this as we go. So if you want to, and also, this is also D. Graham, this is also that cap number that's attached to it. There might be stuff above and beyond, and this is where the imagination comes in. Do you start doing the NIL deals? And I thought that that Trinity Rodman would be that individual. Do you do the NIL? Do we start seeing Trinity Rodman with a bunch of endorsement commercials that we see, and she gets that endorsement money funneled through the league that goes straight to her? Do we start to see the NIL deals with the where if you are that generational talent, you get that NIL money in addition to the above and beyond as your DP Larry Bird exception in the NWSL? This for me is going to be that next level. Which teams are going to sit there and go, okay, let's do this, make that individual a DP. Then we get the NIL money. And so you start seeing that individual in a bunch of different commercials. And wow, Burkina Faso has scored twice in about a minute and a half. Wow, 97-26. They've scored a second goal. They've come down from 1-0 up a man. And with time running out, Burkina Faso looks like they might have just pulled a victory out of the jaws of defeat and a draw. So we'll update those juice boxes in a second. So that to me is part of these larger questions that I have. So probably what we should do is try an effort points of view from the PA and from the league. And just because, like I said, I have off the post and then back in from about 8 yards away. So it is centering pass. Oh, so it hit the keeper, not the post. So the keeper tries to swat it away with the left, and then the rebound is headed in. So Burkina Faso, with the header off of the save, is up 2-1 with time running out. So this, once again, is a part of this whole dynamic for me. Who gets imaginative with it? But I still think that the clubs themselves should be able to determine if someone isn't in that metric that they want to do it. They want to sit there, and Tapsoba scored goal number 2. If you want to bring in a player and pay them that DP Larry Bird exception money off the top, you should be able to do that instead of being tied down to a mathematical equation. Because just because mathematics, just because there's a math and your math might end up being what you're supposed to, add it up to. I think that if a club wants to be ahead of the curve and they want to really lock somebody down as an underappreciated asset, then they should be able to do it. That's just me. All right, so back in after my second timeout. Final score, Burkina Faso up a man, down a goal, comes back to win 2-1. Next matchup is coming up in a half an hour. So it does not take effect until July 1st of 2026, but teams can sign qualified players immediately as long as the use of the rule does not start until the stated date. So that's kind of like what we see with Messi and friends, where they bring in players as TAM, and then at the end of that time frame of the season, then they can sign them up. This is the Rodrigo de Paul section, where you can sign a player, they're a TAM up to a point, and then they turn into a DP. Quote, this is the union. Changes to compensation under the salary cap are a mandatory subject of bargaining, and this has been a point that they have made this entire time. Not a matter of unilateral discretion. Fair pay is realized through fair, collectively bargained compensation systems, not arbitrary classifications. And I think that this is kind of where we're looking at things in the arbitrary classification. They're breaking it down to a math problem, basically, is what they're staring at here. I have, and you know how I am when it comes to math, and especially when it comes to what we're seeing when it comes to this new rule. A league that truly believes in the value of its players would not be afraid to bargain over it, end quote. NWSLPA had specific concerns about the speed of the proposal and the metrics used, such as women's national team minutes, Ballon d'Or honors, appearances, and rankings created by media publications. And that's the thing, is that even if you're getting into rankings created by media publications, that's a slippery slope, because you're entrusting a math problem to publications or what have you that, look, and when you're voting for anything, when you are voting for anything in any walk of life, you're voting for any kind of award, we're all going to have our biases. If you know somebody, you're going to vote them ahead of somebody else. And so what you're doing is you're inserting your own biases with your publications that you trust into voting for players. And I'm sure that there is agreement with 5, 6, 7 deep or whatever if you're looking at a starting 11. But then that's when things will change. So the inherent stuff between the ears in these publications that are voting on these individuals, I appreciate the idea 100% innocently and looking at things through that prism. That's not how it goes. There are always those inherent biases that exist. So the idea that you would be having rankings created by media publications, which media publications, first and foremost? I mean, I would venture to say that if you let us at SDH look at it, we would be as unbiased as it could possibly be because we are all sounding boards for one another. And if one of us is way out in, the bell curve and we're well off to the side, we've got to talk to everybody else to sit there and say, oh, well, this is why this person is, even though they're all the way off to the bell curve here, that's why they need to be a part of this discussion. So the rankings created by media publications, for me, that's an instant red flag. Megan Burke at the NWSLPA told The Athletic last week a lack of agreement on how to proceed. I will say I'm a lawyer. I'm not afraid. This is what Burke said last week, and they brought the quote back. No harm in using the mechanisms that are available to us to have clarity over the rules of the road and how to interpret the contract. So I don't perceive that to be a bad thing, but we do think there needs to be clarity, end quote. NWSLPA backed the stance. League's unilateral action leaves the NWSLPA no choice but to take action to enforce the rights of the players we represent. Now, players must meet one of the following commercial or sporting metrics to be considered for the NWSL Larry Bird exception DP rule. Sports Pro Media top 150 most marketable athletes within 1 year to the current league season. I would ask where Temo Shawinga was when she was brought into the league. Top 30 Ballon d'Or in the 2 years prior. I will have to go back and see how many NWSLians were in the top 30 over the last 2 years, once again, before the discussions we had where you brought in Barbara Bonda and Temo Shawinga. Bookmark there. Top 40, The Guardian top 100 football players in the world in the 2 years prior. Top 40 ESPN FC top 50 football players in the world 2 years prior. Top 11 minutes played for the U.S. in the prior 2 calendar years for field players for all competition types. Well, what if there is a player that has been injured that you are banking on a full recovery and you want to give them that DP Larry Bird exception? Just asking. Top 1 minutes played for USWNT in the prior 2 calendar years for keepers. Well, what if you have a promising keeper that you want to hang on to and you want to pay them that DP money? Literally, we could go through all of these, and like I said, I think we've probably already set Bart's segment for Monday. Top 1 minutes played for keepers last 2 years. NWSL MVP finalist within the previous 2 league seasons. End of year NWN within the previous 2 league seasons. Yeah, we're probably going to have to reach out to the PA and to the league, and this will be Bart's segment on Monday. I've so many warned. Yeah, and Abby, there needs to be exceptions for almost any of them. Like I said, I think that in this economy, you want to call it a free market economy, that's fine. But within the league structure of what the NWSL is setting itself for with this DP Larry Bird exception, you're pinning yourself into a corner. Morning, Hutch. You're literally pushing yourself into a corner, and I think that you are restricting the idea of investing on a player coming into the league early. I think that's what the problem is. And Hutch, hopefully you might be, you're either packing gifts or wrapping them or just hanging out with us this morning. We're glad you're here. So there to me this where I'm going, why here? What is this metric, and why this particular metric when I could see a talent that is and I want to invest in that talent and have them be the Larry Bird exception, the DP, but they won't fit all of these metrics that have been laid out by the NWSL for this new designation. I should be able to, if the league trusted me to be an owner, if I as an owner trust my front office, I should be able to sit there and go to my front office and say, find me that underrated talent. Find me that talent that nobody knows, that when they hit the ground running here, then they're gonna smash it. Find me that person, and I'm gonna lock them in at this DP Larry Bird exception, and no, they won't fit all of these metrics that we've looked at, 2, 4, 6, 8 different metrics that are a part of this point system that the NWSL has put together, I should be able to be trusted by the league to do whatever I want. And if I invest in a player from Latvia, Greenland, wherever, and it turns out that that player doesn't have the output that I'm looking for, they're not that talisman that I'm chasing after, morning, Ricky, then that should be on me. The league putting all of these metrics in place restricts my thought pattern as to who I want to bring in to help grow the league. That's just, like I said, that's where I'm looking at this here. That with these 8 metrics, you're forcing me to gravitate towards shiny objects. I want to bring in that underappreciated talent, that underappreciated asset, and I want to pay them that. I want them to grow, but I want to get them in the early part of the bell curve. I don't want to get them when everybody knows about them. I want to find them when they're the up-and-coming talent so I can lock them in and have them as that DP Larry Bird exception and not sit there and go and fight over everybody else looking for that player that fits these 8 metrics. I want to find that asset that no one knows about, that I trust my front office to get, and I want to pay that person so I can lock them in for 3 or 4 years at a rate where I know I can be successful. But right now, the way that it's marketed with the NWSLPA, you have these 8 metrics, and I think that you're restraining your front offices in your league to chase after shiny objects that everybody wants to chase after. Let me know if that makes any sense. Morning, Ricky. League source told The Athletic several different voices from the NWSL and the board were involved in the creation of the criteria for the new rules, saying there was an effort to cast a ways of players' accomplishments could be recognized. Board of Governors voted to approve the mechanism earlier in the month, and the 4-letter was the first to report the initial approval. In accordance with the CBA, the Players Association is required to weigh in on matters involving the salary cap. In their announcement, the league said it, quote, exercised its discretion to establish, in quotation marks, the new roster classification and, quote, reduce associated salary cap charges following consultation with the NWSLPA, end quote. Last week, Megan Burke said the originally proposed change needed to be collectively bargained. Once again, that goes back to the quote that she had previously. League is trying to assert control over something that should be within the purview and discretion of the teams. See, now this is where I'm with the PA here. If a front office wants to find a player, they ought to be able to find that player. If they want to pay them that DP money, they ought to pay them that DP money. If Messi and friends want to pay Rodrigo de Paul, they ought to be able to pay Rodrigo de Paul. As long as they don't have 5 DPs that they try to pawn off as 3, and then one gets body checked into the next millennium by Santiago Sosa, and he realizes, no, I thought this was just going to be something for me, the equivalent of a soccer smoke break. And yeah, I'm thinking about y'all, and thinking about y'all, Messi and friends, specifically. League source told The Athletic the NWSL granted the PA what it felt was a sufficient time to consider the proposal according to the consultation rights outlined in the CBA. League source added the board felt comfortable moving forward, emphasizing that they felt they were within their rights to do so, prepared to enter arbitration based on the last statements from the NWSLPA. The $1 million allotment will grow in accordance with the salary cap. $3.5 million, as D. Graham had. $3.5 million in 25 after $200,000 team revenue shares were added. Base salary cap in 2030 is more than $5 million, according to the CBA. Additional one player who fits the listed parameters. This was done to provide teams with the ability to compete in a growing market while preserving competitive balance, according to the NWSL release. However, any player contracted using that designation must be a minimum of 12% of the base salary. And so D. Graham was doing the math up to 25%. So that player can be up to 12%, 1 out of 8, or 3 out of 24, whatever, however you want to designate it. But NWSLPA suggested raising the current salary cap by $1 million instead of subjectively limiting how teams could use that money. So the NWSLPA wants you to sit there and just go ahead and just raise the cap instead of keeping the cap at 3.5, having the player get the DP Larry Bird exception, get paid more than $1 million over. PA's just like raise the cap. New rule reflects the league's efforts to compete in an increasingly competitive global economy. Trinity Rodman, Naomi Girma, Alyssa Thompson joined Chelsea in the Super League. NWSL's consistently cited the salary cap as a key driver in maintaining the league's advantage of parity in competition. Not in dispute. Considering what Major League Soccer has done across the board, and operating as one, as a group, having the salary cap being what it is, then having teams navigate inside that salary cap idea. And because you've had the ownership model being what it is, thinking of the collective, that is why Major League Soccer has been as stable as it has been over the last 30 years and is now expanding and expanding and expanding. And so, and D. Graham also points out raising the rookie min from 48.5 to 84.5, which is fantastic. That's great. That means that the league, to me, is continuing to grow. And that's always a good thing. NWSL's statement says they put forward a clear, lawful alternative. Additionally, we propose that through collective bargaining, we work together to create a system for projecting revenue sharing numbers in future years so teams and players can negotiate multi-year deals with certainty. Union remains ready and willing to engage in good faith bargaining. Remember last month, Commissioner Jessica Berman rejected a 4-year multi-million-dollar offer agreed upon between the Spirit and Rodman as it would have violated the spirit of the league rules. And according to league sources, the rejection resulted in the PA grievance filed on Rodman's behalf for violating 5 sections of the collective bargaining agreement. According to the filing, the rule change does not change the status of the grievance, but the resolution timeline has been extended and likely addressed in the new year. NWSL-PA League Board of Governors, consisting of owners and Berman, agree that the NWSL must increase their investment in player composition to compete on a global stage. Check. All agreed. However, the sides disagree on how they spent. And I understand the idea that if you are an owner inside the NWSL, you agree to abide by the rules of the charter, which you sign when you become an owner inside the league. I get that. The league wants restrictions while the NWSL PA believes it should be up to teams to decide. I would like to know what the league's concerns are in this idea. Do they feel that you want every franchise to grow at the same rate, which in a league structure, frankly, depends on the owners themselves and what they want to do when it comes to the level of investment. Owners sometimes are the Pittsburgh Pirates. Owners sometimes are the Los Angeles Dodgers. Owners sometimes are the New York Knicks. Sometimes they're the LA Clippers. Sometimes they're the Utah Jazz or the Sacramento Kings. But when you are inside that collective, that's up to you how you want to engage, and for the league to sit there and go, okay, that's you, we get it. If you want to be that club that sits there and brings in young talent, and then after that initial rookie contract, you can't hang on to them anymore, and you want to make sure that you sell them on and you get the profit that's attached, and you roll that profit over, and you do things that way, that's one way to do it. If you want to do things through a youth system and you build that way and you go, okay, I'm building through a youth system and I have my levels of success, I bring in the occasional veteran talent to add to all of these, to add to all of my roster spots. And then if I have the idea of building from within and investing from the outside to create that should be up to me. Yes, I know that if you are the Pittsburgh Pirates or the Sacramento Kings, you're going to piss off a lot of folks, specifically your fans, by the way you operate. But that's the risk that you take in these situations. So right now, the NWSL-PA and the NWSL are trying to figure out how they want to proceed to go forward. The NWSL, I believe, wants to have clubs grow and succeed as one. You know, they want to have all 17 clubs. They want them all to advance as a group. They want that success across the board. I understand that. But there has to be a time, I would imagine, in any league's life, no matter how stable you've been, where you want to pull the governor out of the golf cart. You want to pull that golf tee out of the engine. So if somebody wants to slam that golf kart in a fifth gear and drive around the course, they can do it. How they drive on the kart path is up to them. And then there's going to be, I would think, levels of investment that are going to be made. And folks are going to sit there and go, wow, they're spending a lot of money. That's on them. If you have found your way to be successful, whether it's, an Atlanta or a Philadelphia or an LA, what have you, or an Angel City or Gotham or Washington Spirit, that's your path. And how you build in your path, I believe, should be up to you. But when you have these metrics that are put together by the NWSL, these 8 categories, I think you're restricting your own growth at points by saying, okay, you're only worth this Larry Bird exception to the DP rule if you fit these categories. But I would think that in any league, if you have a scouting system that is worth its salt and you find those players that aren't in those 8 categories, but you want to pay those players outside of the 8 categories, that DP, that Larry Bird exception money, you ought to be able to do it. That's your own financial investment that you're staring at. But that right now is where the NWSLPA and the NWSL, they're going back and forth, and this is going to be going for quite some time. You're talking about transfer fees that are growing, and part of the quoting Megan Burke once again, part of the frustration of some of our elected leadership who were involved in the recent CBA negotiations is that both sides agreed to a salary cap system that at the time we struck the deal was just enough to accommodate contracts as they then existed, but not high enough to accommodate anticipated year-over-year growth. The transfer fee record was being broken every week or two that summer. We knew this was going to happen, and when we made that point in the final hours of negotiation that these caps are too low, the league's response was, well, we can increase them. Burke says, well, they need to increase them. And that's where the NWSL is right now. You want to increase the cap, they want to do that, but they want to do it over time. NWSLPA says, go ahead and increase the cap. Instead of having the Larry Bird exception, the DP status with one person that you can pay over $1 million over the current cap number, NWSLPA just says, let's take that line item out. That individual can be, $1 million. Why don't we just add the $1 million to the cap, create it at 4.5, and then go from there? If a team doesn't want to spend 4.5, I can imagine that they won't spend 4.5. If a team wants to spend 4.5 or more, see Washington, Gotham, Angel City, San Diego, etc., they're going to want to do that. And I believe that the NWSLPA is looking at it from the concept of go ahead and raise the cap, and if anybody wants to go there, including this Larry Bird exception DP individual, then they're just at 4.5. And then if you want to do what we've been discussing here, the NIL deal, the NIL section of it all, above the 4.5, then a club should be able to do that, and they would just do that above and beyond. And that's why Lionel Messi only makes $20 million in the MLSPA numbers, but in reality, his contract is worth about 50 because of all the endorsements and all the other things. So it currently operates within a cap structure, but you have all the side deals and the endorsements, which means that this deal, while, yes, the financial compensation from the league is X and from your team is X, you have everything else that is league sanctioned and endorsed that gets you that much more, that has nothing to do with the cap figure in and of itself. I know we went into a lot of economics this morning. Yeah, and they can, yes, and D. Graham, yes, they can split up the HIP money if they want to. Once again, I think that's your Washington question where we were mentioning Hirschfeld, Croy Bethune, and Trinity Rodman. So if you wanted to go, okay, 300 here, 300 here, 300 here, so you take your Larry Bird exceptions, you give them 300,000 each, and you have them go toward the top of the cap. And I understand that if you wanted to just increase the cap to, say, 4.5, and you budgeted it out, you would have, just as an example, those 3 players getting closer and closer to the cap, and they would end up being your de facto 3 DPs. If you, like I said, if you were looking at a roster, if you were looking at Washington's roster with young and improving talent, you want to pay Hal Hirschfeld X, you want to pay Croy Bethune X, you want to pay Trinity Rodman X plus. You can split that $1 million for the DP Larry Bird exceptions and then just turn them into DPs. So you could budget that out if you want. The NWSLPA wants to just go ahead, just take the cap to 4.5. You can split the DP and everybody gets raised. So, like I said, and this is if I'm interpreting this correctly. If there's a modifier out of place, let me know. So that's where I think we are when it comes to the ideas of this cap and the DP, the hip, or whatever you want to call it. Like I said, I see hip and I start laughing. But anyway, because I'm 12. So you can get multiple players this $1 million of the DPs, and you got multiple DPs, you get toward 4.5. And I see why the NWSLPA just says, like, look, just raise the cap to 4.5. I see why they're doing that. So yes, there's math involved and all the things. I think we're far away from having it resolved. But this probably means that we should sit there and line it all up to where we need to discuss things with the NWSLPA and possibly with the league and find out, where we are in this as we go forward. So that was about an hour worth of opening kickoff. Literally, it's like we signed in, and it's like 45 minutes later, we go over what's going on with the NWSL and the NWSLPA because it's important. With NWSL Atlanta coming online, Team 17 in 2028, this is the kind of stuff that we need to find out about. We need to find out where the league is going, where it's growing from, where it wants to go to, what the PA is looking for to protect their players, to look in their best interest, where everything else is tied in and all that kind of stuff, and see where it continues to grow. Okay, so once again, being the intrepid producer that he is. Hang on just a second, Ricky. Let me see if I can get to what you were hunting for here. So, like I said, I'm a device down because of everything that I'm staring at. So I'm guessing what we're looking at. Yes, and now let's see. Is this the craft thing that we were discussing? The craft thing with Club America, where yesterday, and I did have this on the rundown, by the way. So Club America, in an official statement yesterday, the Kraft Group is now a partial owner of Club America. Revs, Patriots, associated companies are now part of Club America's family. So going forward, and we'll remind Niko if he drops in at 10:30, but we got to talk about this. So Ricky put a bookmark in this because we've got to get to our AC Boise part. But put a bookmark in here because we'll come back after the discussion with AC Boise and Jennie Telleria. We'll discuss this as a part of what I'm going to do, because I know we've got to get to the Jennie Telleria segment here coming up in a sec. So I am going to, as I was trying to write everything down, you see, Ricky, right here, as part of my rundown, I had Kraft and Club America right here. So it was a part of the deal. So, all right. So Kraft and Club America and player rotations, because we had news about Sean Johnson. We've had news about Drake Callender. So GK Union, we got to get into as well when we come back. All right. So that was a long and important numbers discussion about the NWSL and the NWSLPA. My concerns about it, your concerns about it. Like I said, I think we're probably kind of on the same page, but the thing that sticks out to me are those 8 metrics that we were looking at. Why should I be pinned down to those 8 metrics? If I see somebody, look, if I see somebody here in Montgomery, Alabama, sign that I think is going to be a generational talent, and I know that they're crushing it already over at the Emery Fulmer Soccer Complex. I know that they're crushing it right now. I want to sign that person right now. And I want to sign that person to that DP deal, or DP or the third, or with Larry Bird exception. If I want to go over there right now, if I want to go over to the other side of Taylor Road to the Emery Fulmer Soccer Complex and sign a player to a deal, I ought to be able to do that. But if they don't fit these 8 metrics that we just talked about, then apparently I can't. I don't think that you should. I don't think that you should pin down a club to do those kinds of things. This is probably going to end up being a topic that we're going to put a big bow in as we go forward. Okay, as promised, there's only one time that you get to be a first-year club. and it was really cool to kind of see where things are with what used to be Boise Pro Soccer, and that's where they are on the Twitters. But AC Boise, as they're building, we always look at the on the field stuff. Okay, who are your players? Who are your coaches? What's it going to look like? What's the building going to be? All those things. One of the things we don't look like, that we really don't look at enough, is the jersey. We always sit there, and as Atlanta United folks, you look at that 5-stripe kid. Then you look at the other kits, the concrete and cherry pie or strawberry or whatever, and the 404 and all the others. But that first kit, you got to build on that because that's your identity going forward. And for us, it was a real treat. AC Boise's kind of opened their doors to us a little bit. And we got to talk to the coach when it was announced. We're talking staff, talking all these things. But what about the idea of the jersey that's a part of the fabric of everything? So we catch up with their current chief marketing officer, Jennie Telleria, lead kit designer as they roll things out. And so we kind of went a little kit nerdy today with this particular interview, the whole build about it and the feedback and all that kind of stuff. Because at the end of the day, you're talking to artists who are trying to create something that is going to have a lasting legacy. And so this was where the conversation starts with Jennie Telleria, the chief marketing officer and lead kit designer at AC Boise. She also has her own agency there in Boise itself. But what is it like to create something from scratch that is going to be the identity of a club from day one? Here's our conversation with Jennie Telleria and AC Boise about how they're doing just that. Time to catch up with someone who's got a far better background than I think I ever could have. Jennie Telleria. And how many different sides of the business card, Jennie, do we currently operate when it comes to everything that's going on right now? Let me see if I've got this. So chief marketing officer right now for AC Boise, lead kit designer, and we're going to talk about that for the really cool AC Boise kit for first year. And obviously, the grand exalted poobah, person in charge, owner extraordinaire at Against, the creative consultancy for Rebel Brands based in Boise, Idaho. Am I missing anything?
I don't think so. I like your take on it. That's a much grander title than I actually have. But yeah, I just, I wake up every morning and I log on and answer a bunch of emails. So, and I don't necessarily know what persona I have when I'm answering those emails all the time, but we get it done somehow.
Right there with you. The reason that we brought you on is because there are a lot of different aspects of creation, and when it comes to a franchise coming online, a lot of folks will sit there and they'll go, okay, yeah, it's players, it's a stadium, it's all the on the field stuff, but I don't think a lot of folks quite understand all of the off the field elements that go into it, and something that is a part of the presentation of a brand and a franchise and all of that goes into this. And that's why I wanted to bring you in to discuss the build of the jersey and the kit and all of these things. How did they knock on your door to sit there and go, Jennie, we want you to be a part of this? How did this happen, first and foremost?
Well, first of all, we actually started this process 10 years ago. I've been in contact with who is currently the CEO now, when this was just a dream of his. And he lives in Boise. I live in Boise, and that's how we were connected. And I think I'd worked with him on another project that was completely unrelated to what is now currently Athletic Club Boise. At the time, it didn't have a name. And in fact, I was searching through some old files the other day and found some of the original sketches that we had from 2015. And I can tell you that what we ended up with looks absolutely nothing like those original sketches. But the whole process of building a team can take a very, very long time. And at one point it just starts off as a dream, and then here we are today, and we are going to be, kickoff is happening here shortly, and terrifyingly, because you should see my list of things that I still have to do and check off.
Oh, okay. So how deep is that list? Is it on a hidden 6 foot by 8 foot long dry erase board with a bunch of different colors and arrows, or where is this to do list getting ready for the season?
It lives in lots of different places, and a lot of sticky notes all over, and of course digitally. And it's not just me. I have a full team of incredibly talented, wonderful human beings who help get all of this done. And there's no way any of this would certainly happen without them. They keep me in check and make sure that I'm where I need to be as well, and getting the things done that I need to get done. Um, yeah, it's lots of lists.
How many iterations are we talking about here from original design? Okay, AC Boise's coming online, trumpets and fanfare and everything. They knock on your door. All right, we're serious. Let's get this done. How many different iterations of this idea did we come up with before you settled on what you settled on?
Um, well, hundreds, genuinely hundreds of designs. And again, it wasn't just me from the very beginning. I had a whole team of designers who were working on the identity. And we started with, when you launch a team, it's not called that. It doesn't have a name yet. So we launched with Boise Pro Soccer, which is kind of the vernacular that USL launches with when they announce a new team. It's City Pro Soccer. So before it was Athletic Club Boise, it was Boise Pro Soccer. And Boise, I don't know how much you know about Boise, or if you've ever been to Boise. It's a very tight knit community. People love Boise. And so we knew from the very beginning that we wanted to make sure we involved our community. So we did a lot of listening sessions where we showed up with big boards that had all of these photos of things that were relevant and important to Boise. And we gave everyone these little dots and said, okay, put your sticker dot on the images or the things that you felt like were the best representation of Boise. And so the community really help us narrow that big list of possibilities of what's going to be involved and what's going to go into this crest. And so from there, we have this list of things, items or emblems or symbols. And from there, we set out to sketch lots of different iterations and ways those pieces and parts can come together. And I think we went through, 6 rounds of design. And within each of those 6 rounds, you just start narrowing. We started with, I think, from a designer perspective, you're sketching hundreds, and those hundreds never get seen like the light of day because most of them are crap, right? And you narrow it down to a few that you think, okay, this is presentable to the client. So we present it to the team and the CEO, and they decide which ones they like. And often that's a Franken design, or what we call Franken design as designers, which is, I like this piece of this mark and I like this piece of this crest, and can we push those together? And then from there, we ultimately end up with what you see today and what you just shared on the screen. But it did not look like that initially. It went through some pretty ugly stages first.
How large a team are we talking about here when it comes to the collaborative process on your end, and sitting in one of those rooms that I imagine that is the big glass window and the hermetically sealed room with the equally glass table and the long chairs? How many folks were on your team that were collaborating in this whole process?
There were 3 specific designers that were actually, pen to paper, who were sketching and coming up with concepts. But the team surrounding us there's a team of 7 on the marketing team that are doing everything, bringing everything to life. And then, of course, from the soccer side and operations side, there's a much larger team. But it's a startup, so we're small and scrappy. And from the very beginning, it's just a few people who are doing everything. And then you start to bring more people on and divide and conquer. And but it's behind the scenes, it's a really small group of people who make these things happen and pull it off. And but I don't know if you can see the bags under my eyes, but there's we don't sleep much.
Well, and I mean, there are always the stories that are attached to the logos and the color schemes and things like that. When it came to the write up and the analysis of, okay, this isn't just this color palette, it has this meaning that's attached to it. How much research and depth of field went into describing, okay, it's not just a basic color, there's a story that's attached to it. It's not just a logo, there's meaning behind it that has to do with actual things that are indigenous to the Boise area. How much thought goes into all of that process?
I love that you brought that up because not a lot of people understand that. They just see the finished piece and, people love it or they hate it. And you're going to have the whole spectrum. And the reality is there is a lot of thought and strategy and symbolism and meaning that goes into the work that is done. Good designers, in fact, every single decision is built on meaning and it's intentional. And is everyone who sees the mark going to recognize that? No. But as a designer, we need to have something to build off of and to start with. And so, yeah, we're again, we polled the community and they identified the things like farming. Boise has a rich history of agriculture, and so we knew that we wanted to somehow incorporate that into it. And sometimes it shows up in very realistic ways. Obviously, our Falcon bolt, it's still abstract, but it's recognizable, right? Well, the lines on our crest, those are symbolic of agriculture lines. It's more abstract, but it still has that reference point and that symbolism behind it.
And you mentioned the agriculture fields, as we have the logo up here once again. The agriculture fields low left in the southwest corner. You have valleys and mountain peaks on the north and the south. The star garnet. You have they mentioned the peregrine falcon that's attached to it. And one of the things that I didn't know, and this is part of that education process, is the Basque influence. I didn't know that going into this process.
Yeah, Boise has the largest population of Basque people outside of the Basque country. And that is something that all Boiseans are proud of, whether or not you have a Basque background or not. My husband's Basque. Telleria is a Basque name. So I get the pleasure of walking down. We have an area in Boise called the Basque Block that has a Basque museum, a lot of Basque restaurants, and, all of the founders are the original Basque people who came to Boise. Their name is engraved in the sidewalk, and so Telleria is one of those names, which is kind of fun.
So when you get into these ideas, then you've got to find the right kit manufacturer that will understand where you're coming from, and they get you. How long was that search out process of sitting there? It's like, well, yeah, we think that we'll go with so and so, or they'll go so and so. It ends up being Hummel, but how many conversations are you having about folks? No, I don't think they get us. Yeah, they get us, and we'll go here. What's that
Mhm.
conversation like? And
I can
finding
only
a home.
Yeah, and I can only speak to that on the surface. Honestly,
Yeah.
that was the CEO's job. He was part of those conversations, and but we did look at quite a number of kit providers, and ultimately went with Hummel. And Hummel's been great. And I don't know how much your audience or about the kit design process, but different providers or different kit manufacturers, they have, some of them have very standard templates and certain things that you can look at from designing. One of the things that makes Hummel so unique is you can customize everything from the shape of the collar to the cuts on the sleeves to the material on the cuffs. Quite literally, every element and aspect of it is customizable, which is both wonderful and can be intimidating as a designer. When everything's a possibility, it's like, oh my, where do I start?
Well, and then you end up with the finished product, and then you end up with final, and it's about ready to go out into the community. I imagine it's exhilarating, nerve-wracking. You want to hide in a corner, but you want to be out in front to see what everybody's thinking. I imagine if there's curtains, you're probably hiding behind them one moment, and then you're pulling at your face, like the face bit where you sit there and it's only your face that's out, and you kind of go back like this. When it turns into something that's final, and you're getting ready for that presentation, is it as nerve-wracking as I anticipate, because now you don't get that second chance to make the first impression and it's out there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And sports fans are fanatics, right? Yeah, you're going to have people who love it, and you're going to have people who absolutely hate it. And obviously, it was important for us to make sure that we were involving the community and making sure that we were eh, representing the brand in a way that they were going to love. And I think I have one of the kits here. One of the
There
important
you
things
go.
I was going to put it on, but then I'm like, but then I won't be able to, use it as a prop. So, um, But so because it's our inaugural season, it was important to us that all of our kits are going to be grounded in the narrative of our crest.
Right.
And so this particular kit, and I don't know if you can see, my lighting's not super
Yeah,
great in
you're
here.
good. You got it.
But this our home kit is our Peregrine Falcon kit. So everything was inspired by the Peregrine Falcon. So there's a pattern that's heat sublimated, or heat pressed rather,
Oh, wow.
on the front, and you can't really see it. It's only subtle and comes out in different light. And that is representative of the plumage of the Peregrine Falcon. And then, we're making decisions on everything. Like the direction that the pattern is going in is the direction that the Falcon is from our crest.
Yeah.
Nerdy things like that nobody cares about. But as a designer, those are the things that we nerd out about. And, we're picking, what's the material that this piece is in. Like this is a 3D printed layer ink, all the way, to our crest, which is a silicone with tatami background.
Yeah.
So, you're picking out all of those things and hoping it comes together, because you don't really see it in its final form until it shows up in the box on your in your office.
Yeah, well, and all right. So then walk me through that day when that box shows up and all of the stuff that you've pieced together, you and the team have pieced together. The box shows up for the first time. You obviously, there's the box cutter, but you don't want to take the box cutter and go too deep because you don't know how far they stacked it. You don't want to do any damage. So it's like box cutter comes out, you make that slice, you open it up. What was the reaction when you opened the box for the first time on the final?
I mean, it makes you feel like Christmas when you're a little kid. It was really exciting. And the first thing you do is you pull it out and you're holding it up and looking at it from a distance, and then you're diving in and like, how does that look? And how's the fabric here? And you go over it with a fine tooth comb, and it was pretty exciting to see it come to life, and then also to see other people's reactions. I think that was the most exciting part. That the community really responded well, and it was really well received, which, whew, thank goodness.
Well, and I mean, the initial print run was 5,000? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard a vicious rumor that it's difficult to keep. That it's difficult to keep them in stores. This thing it's moving, and there's a lot of town pride and there's a lot of team pride that's attached to it, and the fact that it is being received as well as it is obviously speaks to all of that development that goes back 10 years to where you are now. I mean, yeah, it does seem like it is one of those Christmas moments, but I don't know how many folks quite understood going in that, yeah, this is as integral as the on the field product. And we're catching up with the coaches and everything. We're catching up with front office folks. What's it like to be a part of that build and have the team sit there and go, man, this really is, we've locked this in. This is here. Everybody's digging it, and we're that much closer to really being a part and showing all of this off to the soccer community.
I mean, being a part of this team has been absolutely incredible, and it is a very tight-knit group of people who are making all of this happen, both on the Athletic Club Boise side and then on the marketing against side of things. We're one team. We really consider ourselves one team, and there's emails flying and text messages that are coming in at all hours of the night, and sharing things that we're seeing online and saying, "Oh, we should do this. This is really cool." But it is really exciting. There's a lot of energy, and if anybody's ever been a part of a startup, it's that energy. It's a startup company. It's a startup team, and yeah, you just roll up your sleeves, you dive in. Sometimes you're taping up signs. You're doing everything when you're small and starting.
How many startups have you been a part of? Have you always thought of yourself as a builder of things?
Yeah, my background's in design, and as a designer, that is, you're building things. You're starting from nothing and figuring out how are you putting these disparate pieces together to create meaning and putting that out into the world. So, my company, Against, is a startup, or I guess it's 6 years old, but it was a startup at one point, and I've worked with lots of different brands and startups, not necessarily on the startup team, but as their marketing partner. And startups are a unique beast.
Yeah. I was going to ask, is there like one misconception that folks may just sit there that it just magically happens? Is that probably like the biggest misconception of a startup, that, oh, it just magically appears and everything's fine? What's the biggest misconception in a startup, you think?
That's a good question. Probably that there's not a lot of thought that how does this happen? People see the end result, right? They see the end piece, but they don't see all the consternation and the debates and the tears that happen behind the scenes. And it's everything. There's a decision behind everything, and everything's designed. I mean, quite literally, everything that we're doing is designed from the ground up.
When you're back home in Boise, and now that the reveal has happened, and the season ticket holders and all the heavy stakeholders, they had the big presentation. They're wearing the scarves. They come by, they get their jersey. What's it like for you now to go walking around in Boise, and you're seeing people wearing those jerseys out in the just casual? It's like, hey, I'm going to a sports bar. I might be on my way to the blue turf to go check something out, and they're wearing that jersey. And do you kind of sit there and kind of tilt your head sideways and give it a bit of a sly look, or do you sit there and are you going, man, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 8? What's it like for you and the team now to go walking around in town and seeing folks wearing these things leading into this first season?
There's definitely a sense of pride, and it's working. They like it. The community's in on this. It's as someone who's creating something from nothing, it's always cool when you see it live out there in the world. I remember the first time I designed a magazine ad that ran an outside magazine. I was like so excited as a young designer. I'm like, that's so cool.
I mean, when you have moments like this, and you're a part of this build that is a part of this foundation that is going to be a part of this legacy. I mean, there are a lot of these building blocks that you and your team have been a part of now to have something like this happen. How many folks sit there and they walk up to you and it's like, okay, so what are you going to do for an encore? Is there any patience in this at all? Or they just it's like, come on, it's like, all right, you got the first one, let's get the next, let's get the next one going. Or are folks just kind of sitting there and going, all right, let's get this, let's be grounded about this whole thing, we've got to launch the team, they've got to start playing? Or are they looking to continue to churn on the hamster wheel? How many folks sit there and tap you on the shoulder and go, this is great, what are you going to do now?
Oh yeah, everybody wants what's next, right? I mean, same. We're the same. We're like, all right, moving on. I mean, we don't have time to sometimes bask in the excitement of it. We're like, all right, that's done. Moving on to all the other things that need to get done. And our home kit's done, and we've been in the background while this was in production. We were behind the scenes working on the away kit and the keeper kits and the home or the third kit and all of those things. So the excitement is still happening. We see packages that are showing up at our office with proofs of, let's see, what are we working? What was the proof we just got? We just got our very first proof of a keeper kit.
Okay.
And I actually haven't even seen it. I've been in Vegas. My team opened it up, and so I had them send me videos and photos, so we could see what it was looking like, because we're down to the wire now where we've got to start turning approvals around so that we can make sure that our team has something to wear when they roll up for their first game.
And I mean, I think that's the other part of this that folks may not necessarily compute, is that you got to be ready for that first home game. Okay, cool. You got to be ready for that first away game, whenever that is. And that means that the players have to wear it. They've got to be comfortable with it. They've got to be ready to go. All these stages, as we were talking about earlier, it's not magic. It's like it is magic to create it, but it's not magic to get it done. So it's created and in a physical sense. And so it's real world deadlines, and you're going up against it here. And I give you a lot of credit, you and the team, a lot of credit for all of the sleepless nights that you're going through to sit there and it's like, yeah, okay, away kit needs to be like this, home kit's here. How far off of the base do we go for the third? Where do we do are the players, are the keepers? Let me ask you this: for the keeper kit, are there any goalkeepers around that are sitting there and saying, yeah, let's go this color, this color, this color? What's the feedback from the team?
Well, when we're designing it, we don't have a team, right? Like, team recruitment is happening at the same time that we're building and designing all these things. So we're relying on the actual staff, or those team members who obviously have been players and have a lot of background in the coach, and those individuals are weighing in and saying, yeah, keepers won't like that. But we didn't have keepers when we were designing this.
It's like can we go over to Boise State and kind of swear them to secrecy and have the keeper and have so When I guess what's the timelines now? Obviously, you sell out at Christmas, and then that means that Hummel's got to reproduce everything. What are your self-imposed deadlines to have things ready for the rest of us to sit there and go, all right, so when are you holding up the next jersey for the next interview? What are your self-imposed deadlines now?
Well, there's a spreadsheet that has a lot of dates on it that are very quickly arriving. But even before we get to the point of where we've got the kits and the players are wearing them, or we're selling the away kits, we've got media day, and so that's a day where the team, where they're coming together, they're putting on all of the various kits, and we're taking photos and videos and getting their signatures on things. That happens well before the game even happens, and that's happening, you know, a month before kickoff. And so there's a whole bunch of things that have to happen before anybody even rolls out onto the field with wearing that kit.
Have you had a chance to catch your breath at all?
I don't do well when I don't have anything to do. So I like that pace. I like the energy. I like the go. If I sit down and there's nothing to work on, I'm like, I create chaos, right? So it's just better if there is chaos. Otherwise, I'll just create it.
We cannot thank you enough for pulling back the curtain on something like this, to kind of walk everybody through this branding and marketing 101. This actually is probably for those of us on this side, it's probably branding and marketing 101. On your side, it is probably the PhD level course in getting something done. So AC Boise can look the look and walk the walk and talk the talk. Jennie, I cannot thank you enough for pulling back the curtain a little bit, breaking everything down, and kind of letting everybody know that there's a story behind the story that we see and the story that we get to learn about as we go. And we can't wait to see how things continue to develop there at AC Boise, and can't wait to see all of this stuff sell out and be all over the place. And you become incredibly rich and famous, and they sit there and it's like, okay, so here's next. So that kind of stuff. Can't thank you enough for dropping by for the education. We really appreciate it, especially with you being on the road and being away from the office and trying to get things done like 19 different ways. Can't thank you enough for doing this. We really appreciate it here on the morning show.
Well, thanks for inviting me, and thanks for being interested and curious. And I'll be back anytime.
Jennie Telleria dropping by, and that was fun to be able to kind of nerd out a little bit and go behind the scenes when it comes to a kit launch, pick it, where you go, all those kinds of things. So very cool stuff there as we look at things. All right, so let's kind of discuss things. Algeria had an early goal against the Sudan, and it is 28th minute, and they lead it still 1-0 in match 2 of 4 here on your match day. So we'll keep you posted on that one. Once again, remember, you got 2 matches after this one is over. Let me see if the juice boxes have shifted any from when we started talking about it this morning. And it is, let me double check and check the margins here real quick. So once again, you load your historical data. I don't care. Ivory Coast and Mozambique. Right now, Ivory Coast is now a minus 370. Mozambique has continued to increase to a plus 1160. Draws a plus 415. And that's at 12:30 Eastern. Cameroon and Gabon is at 3 o'clock Eastern time. Cameroon is a favorite on the plus, and the draw is a plus 197. And your picking Gabon to win over 90 minutes is a plus 262. So let's get you into what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. Once again, brought to us by our friends at Fanatis. FNTZ.co/soccer down here. You can get Fanatis, and once again, you mentioned that, and they get helps them out, helps us out, helps you out when it comes to all of your degenerate nature when it comes to looking at anything and everything going on in the world of soccer. So I already have an account, so I'm trying to sign in here, and so this is like, I'd like to have my password pop up here and just go and start and success, you're signed in. Well, yeah, no kidding, considering that I have a subscription. It is all AFCON. It is all AFCON today, and it's all on Fanatis. And once again, it's on y'all. When you go to Fanatis, you get all the BNs, which means you get all the AFCON. You get CDO2, Nuestro Tele, for the fans, TVV. You get Liga 1 Max Pro. We've even seen some Tigo Sports in there, some CATV, all of those things that are attached. And you can pick all of that up and our buddy Nino Torres at Gold TV. Once again, Nino's joining us at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. So on Friday morning. If he joined us at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, he'd be the only one here. So 10 o'clock Friday morning, Nino Torres from Gold TV. He's going to be joining us, and he will break down everything as Nino Damas always does. So once again, nothing tomorrow. And Nino's going to join us 10 o'clock on Friday, and we'll break everything down in his world. We're going to talk South America. We're going to talk about Portugal. We're going to talk about Peru. We're going to talk about anything else that has come across his bow in the last 8 days by the time he comes and joins us on Friday morning. So with him Friday morning, 10 o'clock. And so today, once again, it is Cote d'Ivoire, Mozambique at 12:30, Cameroon and Gabon at 3. That's on BN and BN in Espanol. You can get that at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. And once again, helps us out, helps them out, helps everybody out, and it adds to the leagues that you may not necessarily have known about that were accessible. I mean, like BN has added the Polish league, the Ekstraklasa, and they have added they've had League but they added the Polish league this year in addition to everything else that they broadcast. So, and nothing tomorrow. Taking tomorrow off, and then Friday everything picks back up when it comes to AFCON and England and the league that we neither condone, endorse, nor promote, and La Liga and A-League and a bunch of other places, Serie A, Serie B, Premier League, Championship, all the things for Boxing Day. Remember, Boxing Day, they only have the one Premier League matchup because it was constructed. So it will be a banner day for the lower divisions in England. So if you are really looking for anybody in the championship to keep an eye on, obviously you go to Paramount Plus. You can watch that on Friday, but it is wall-to-wall lower divisions on Friday. And it is League One on Paramount Plus and League Two on Paramount Plus and the A-League and a bunch of other things. But literally tomorrow, nothing going on, and the one Premier League match in addition to AFCON on Friday. But we'll go over all that stuff as we go. So that's the rundown there. Let's get you into headlines overseas and kind of give you the tour as everything is getting closer and closer to the Christmas holiday. As I sit here, I need to dust this off because literally it's like, all right, so what am I doing here? What I'm trying to do is look through all of the dust, and I can tell you what's going on. So once again, AFCON going on right now. I did not go card, but it kind of makes sense. Martha Stewart has become the latest celebrity to invest in Swansea City. Because you remember who invested previously. Her pal Snoop Dogg. What do you think that conversation was like? Yo, Martha, I got something for you. What is it, Snoop? I got something for you. You dig soccer? Or it's probably more along the lines of, hey, soccer, you dig? Yes, I have seen it. I got an investment for you. And then everything goes up. Ding. So Martha Stewart, probably on the advice of her buddy Snoop, is now invested in Swansea City. Jasper Jolly at The Guardian. Stewart joins Snoop Dogg and Luka Modric as a majority owner, made on a post on the club's website by two of the owners. Posted, obviously not disclosed the size of the investment. Increasing influence in British... Okay, so, all right, timeout. Jasper Jolly at The Guardian, timeout. The move underlines the increasing influence in British football of U.S. owners who appear to be drawn by the strong heritage and potential financial returns, at least for clubs below the Premier League. Okay. Increasing influence. This is a club in Wales that already has had American owners, and they're adding percentages of more American owners. The initial American ownership is somewhat divesting of it, and it just so happens that you're going to Snoop Dogg and to Martha Stewart. I don't quite think that this is any kind of influence. This literally is a way for Snoop probably to market things, for Martha Stewart probably to market things in Wales. The Commonwealth is probably somewhere where Snoop can sit there and market stuff, and you get the younger demographic for soccer fans attached to Swansea City. Full disclosure, member of the Swans Trust right here. So Martha Stewart is probably looking at this as an investment opportunity, or it's just like money that she's got laying around between the sofa cushions, and she's like, hey, yeah, let's do that. But probably on the advice of her friend Snoop, hey, yo, Martha, you got the 7 figures laying around somewhere? That's probably how that went. You got any loose change, Martha? You want to invest in a soccer team? You need another write-off by the end of the year. You got a week. So Martha Stewart, another write-off by the end of the year, because literally in the championship, if you are either doing one of two things. You are just trying to survive, or you are spending entirely too much money to get to the Premier League. If Snoop and Martha Stewart are looking at this as possibly a way to get to the Premier League, okay, cool, fine. That's probably down the road, and there's going to have to be far more investment than is currently there right now. Because right now it's Coventry City and everybody else. But more often than not, and you can ask our friend Jessica Charman about this, you have owners that overspend. And their spend over salary, it's like salary for the players is as much as 180 to 200% sometimes of the bottom line. And these clubs end up getting into more financial peril, and they screw things up for themselves. And over time, they end up not going into the Prem, and sometimes they have economic issues, and then they have to answer to the tax man, and that's something that you never want. And literally, you're either spending money the right way, you're spending a lot of money the right way, and you're hitting those, or you're not, and it turns into a mess. Because so let's look at this real quick. So let's take a look at the table in English football. So let's look at the table. So in the championship right now, I mean, this is why Tom Brady wants to get his team to the Premier League. Why? Because he's investing so that way they can get into the Premier League, and the investment that he will have made in Birmingham City turns into something that is massive, and then they can build that stadium with the 12 smokestacks and be this shining beacon for football that they anticipate they want to be in the Premier League for. Okay, so right now, standings in the championship, just so we can stare at it. Once again, we're going to keep an eye on AFCON right now. It's 1-0. Standings in the championship. It is Coventry and Middlesbrough right now. Coventry is 6 points clear of everybody. So Coventry and Middlesbrough would be in the season ended right now. 22 matches in. You're almost to the halfway point of the season. Ipswich, Hull, Preston North End, Millwall. But once again, you realize how tight the championship is. And you go from 3rd to 13th, and you're separated by 6 points. So that's 11 teams, 6 points, 2 wins. You have a good week, you rocket up the table. You have a bad week, you end up mid-table. So then you go QPR, Stoke, Bristol City, Watford, Southampton, Derby, Leicester. And Leicester's probably going to be in more trouble. They may not be, they might end up with another points deduction. Birmingham City right now in the championship is 14th. 29 points, that's okay. You know, you manage right now, and I think much like Wrexham, who's in 15th at 28 points, survive this year, build on it, and continue to go. That's why Rob Mack and Ryan Reynolds, you got that from a Capital Holdings group. So that's what you ended up with. You got that. So that gets you to West Brom at 16th, Charlton United 17th, Sheffield United 18th, Swansea's in 19th right now. And they're fine. I mean, they're 7 points away from the relegation zone. Oxford United, by the way, who's in the relegation zone, just fired their manager. Blackburn is in 20th at 25 points, and then there's a bit of a gap. Portsmouth 21st, just trying to stay afloat in the championship this year after being promoted from League One. Oxford United looking to go back down. Norwich in a world of hurt. And for Norwich to go down, if Norwich goes down to League One, that could be catastrophic for them. And then Sheffield Wednesday, obviously, they're on an 18-point deduction from the federation for not paying your bills and not paying your people. And so now they're waiting for, they're waiting for what else comes down the pike. But let's take a peek of the clubs. All right. So how many of these clubs have been recently in the Premier League? Middlesbrough in the last decade, Ipswich, Hull City is a yo-yo club, and they haven't yo-yoed in a while. QPR, they haven't been up in a while. Stoke, they haven't been up in a while. Watford hasn't been up in a while. Southampton is 5. Derby is 6. They had a cup of coffee. Leicester is 7. West Brom is 8. Swansea 9. Blackburn 10, but that's like in the last decade. Portsmouth has not been there for a long time, and it took Michael Eisner to buy them to even get back on any kind of financial footing, and Norwich and Sheffield Wednesday. So you're looking like half the teams of the 24 have a history in the Premier League. But if you look at who is, say, not currently in the chase to go to the championship, to the Premier League, you're looking at 1, 2, 3. You're looking at 9 of those 12 not in a position right now to chase after a place to go into the Premier League. So 9 of the clubs, 9 of the 12 are not in a position right now to be in a position to chase after a Premier League spot. You look at the if you say, so 24 teams, let's go 12 down. So from 12 down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 of the bottom half of the championship are not in a position right now to go into the promotion playoff in the Premier League. Once again, don't get me wrong, you're at 31 points if you are in 12th, and you need 4 points to get in it. But for the sake of argument right now, you're looking at a lot of clubs, 9 of the 12 below the halfway point, that have Premier League experience that are not in a position to go back into the Premier League. And Swansea being where they are right now, they need an influx of capital. They're in that third group, 5 points away from 13th. They should survive. They've won 3 of 4. They're at 26 points. They should survive. Right now, it's about investment to survive or an investment to divest. So you have Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart now being a part of things at Swansea. But the idea of increasing influence, this is an investment in a divestiture. This is a subset of a club. This is not going to be Martha Stewart and Snoop Dogg doing a holiday special from Swansea and creating something that will continue to grow and grow and grow and will be at a point to attract others. That's not how this is going to work. So the idea that this is an influx of capital that is going to be, this is probably, once again, this is at the end of the year where they're looking, it's like, oh yeah, this is something that they think is cool that they can add to their CV. I'm a part owner of a soccer team in Wales in the second division in the English football pyramid. I don't think this is anything that has to do with that. So anyway, so Tom Brady is mentioned. Reynolds and Rob Mack have been mentioned. And the Martha Stewart brand, once again, the irony is that with her brand at Swansea and the brand that used to be at Norwich, who they referred to Miss Delia as the Martha Stewart of England. And right now they are 8 points ahead of the Martha Stewart of England when she used to own Norwich. Norwich is in real trouble. Okay. I'm guessing that Niko is spending time with family. No real surprise. So let's get into the Club America thing. So Club America, as we were discussing, and we'll get into the Major League Soccer stuff here to wrap up the show in the final 20 minutes and anything else that's going on. So we mentioned that Club America is going to be a part of the craft umbrella now. So it is now a part of the full efforts of the craft family. So you now have, yes, cookies. Okay, fine, great. So Club America comes out with a statement. I'm trying to get to the craft part. Our president, Emilio Azcárraga-Jean, announced today a strategic alliance with General Atlantic, a leading global investor with international financial experience and recognition, and with a partnership with the Kraft Analytics Group, a private technology and data company affiliated with the Kraft Group, owner of the Patriots, the Revs, and also in New England and Gillette Stadium in the state of Massachusetts. This is from Club America's. The alliance adds global experience and a long-term vision, but they maintain something fundamental: the leadership, the direction, and the identity of America, which those will remain at home with our noble fans. The Azcárraga family will continue to lead Club America and Estadio Banorte with majority control as it has done for decades, guiding this project with the same passion that vibrates in the stands and with the same commitment that wearing our colors demand. Emilio Azcárraga Jean will continue to serve as executive chair of the board of directors, leading the strategic management of the club and the stadium and working hand in hand with a world-class team so that Club America continues to grow in Mexico and around the world. And they mentioned Estadio Banorte. So now you have the craft parts of business attached to Club America. Just keep an eye on pipelines. Will you see the younger players in the Club America Academy that might be roadblocked at positions? Do you see them as a part of the Revs too, which obviously we'll have MLS Next Pro coming up in 2026. We're keeping an eye on that with Atlanta United too, adding players recently as they've done. So will you start to see Club America players with Revs too? Will you start to see senior players with Club America who are roadblocked for whatever reason, making their way to have loan agreements with the Revs? I'm intrigued. Will this happen? I'm anticipating so on multiple levels. So that to me is going to be, I am truly intrigued. And D. Graham, we are. We will discuss that as well. So D. Graham with a bit of a tease because it is a crossover of Major League Soccer to NWSL. And let me get the final word on this. Since you brought it up, we'll go ahead and go there. But yeah, keep an eye on the pipelines from Club America to the Revs, whether it is first team or second team. Keep an eye on that now with this relationship. Now, so let's see if this is officially official. And I haven't seen anything officially official. It has been linked. Let's put it that way. So set to name is where it is currently in status. Set to name. So it is apparently, according to Jeff Kassouf, and this started yesterday, finalizing a deal to hire Chris Armas as head coach. Once again, coaching the Rapids, current won the Shield in 25. So Jeff Carlisle, Jeff Kassouf, yesterday, it appears that Chris Armas is going to be the next head coach of Kansas City Current. Hiring, according to Kassouf and Carlisle, still being finalized pending the standard league clearance of all coaches, expected to be confirmed imminently. So I would say after the holiday, maybe Monday. Monday, you get your breaking news sounder from us, and it happened. Kansas City, obviously, since Vlatko went upstairs, left the head coaching position, he's now sporting director. And so Current 21 points ahead of Spirit. Kansas City loses to 8th seed Gotham in the first round of the playoffs. We caught up with KCD White, and KCD broke that down. When you don't have some of your players that are injured or where they're trying to reintegrate into the lineup, an 8th seed can come up and bite a 1, as what happened here. But once again, this is an 8th seed in Gotham, which to me was not a typical 8 seed coming in. So according to Kassouf and Carlisle, the hiring comes as a surprise, not only because he's coming over from Major League Soccer, but because Kansas City assistants Milan Ivanovic and Freya Kum were also considered successors. Vlatko had called them strong candidates, in quotation marks, in an interview back last month. Ivanovic was ostensibly the favorite for the job, given his deep connection to Vlatko, had been his top assistant for a decade with FC Kansas City, then with Seattle Reign and the U.S. women's national team. And so, once again, you have Kassouf and Carlisle presuppose that the Armas hiring suggesting current leadership, current with a capital C, not in present day, but current, name of the club, has sought some level of change despite the team's recent success. The bulk of Armas's previous managerial experience is coming on the men's side of the sport. Once again, Red Bulls, Toronto FC, Colorado Rapids, and once again, remember, he was an assistant at Manchester United and Leeds. 66 appearances for the United States as a national team player. So Chris Armas, Kansas City Current, intriguing. So, it makes you wonder what the thought process is in Kansas City to bring Chris Armas aboard. Makes you wonder. So we'll see what the thought pattern was in Kansas City. If this comes to pass, like I said, I think let the holiday weekend go through, And then Monday you might get your breaker and, hey, press conference, that kind of a thing. So we'll keep an eye on Chris Armas in Kansas City. And that's, like I said, that's one that was not on radar, period. It was not part of the radar. And like I said, it was naturally intriguing. And so now you're going, all right, so what is going on in Kansas City to where they want to go in that direction instead of, say, Ivanovic? That's the big question. Now, rotations when it comes to Major League Soccer. Yesterday, and we'll work backward a little bit. So yesterday it was reported, Tom Bogert et al., which is Latin for et alii and others, Minnesota United nearing a deal to acquire Drake Callender from Charlotte. We probably should get some intel and thoughts from our friend Will Pelagic about this when it does become official. Callender wins with Messi and friends, traded to Charlotte, and so he heads to Minnesota. So what we had presupposed there, when Charlotte picked up Drake Callender from Messi and friends, we were kind of wondering out loud, why? Was there enough unrest in Charlotte involving Christian Kalina to where Dean Smith and everybody and the Z-Man, Zoran Cornetta, thought that they should protect their flanks in case Christian Kalina wanted to leave? And that might be the case at the time. That's what we were thinking, is that Christian Kalina might be fed up having to defend for both himself and for everyone else in Charlotte. And so was Christian Kalina at a point to where, yeah, man, I'm out. I'm not happy. And, I'm going to kind of kick the tires on things. And we'll see, what my level of interest is, internationally, because I want out. And so you ended up with the idea of possibly Christian Kalina leaving, and you had a quality number one in Drake Callender. And with Callender, you had a keeper that was making base just under $400,000 a year. And so full compensation for Callender was at $455,913 last year, according to the MLSPA. It was a decent salary number to protect in case Christian Kalina was heading out the door. Apparently now Christian Kalina seems to be happy for the time being. And so now Charlotte thinks that, okay, we're cool, and we just need to find a veteran backup. Maybe we re-sign David Bingham, and Drake Callender can go find another home. We've got a decided number one. We're going to keep him happy. We're going to keep him here. And so Drake Callender, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for getting healthy with us. Thanks for being here as a backup. We're going to find you a home. Apparently, that is going to be in Minnesota. So we have Dane St. Clair leaving Minnesota United, offered more money to stay, not interested in that, takes less money to go to Messi and friends to be their number one. Because remember, Messi and friends did not re-sign Rocco Rios Novo. His loan, they didn't renew it. So the keeper that you had down the stretch that won you an MLS Cup, you're not hanging on to anymore. You're still hanging on to Oscar Ustari because of the experience and what have you, and multiple competitions, etc. So you hang on to Ustari. You don't renew Rocco Rios Novo's loan. You bring in Dane St. Clair, who spent last season with Minnesota United. So that creates an opening in Minnesota. And Minnesota was kicking the tires on folks, and now it appears it's going to be Drake Callender. Sean Johnson was a part of the discussions after he leaves Toronto. Oh, yeah, I'd be absolutely pissed, Abby, if I was Rocco. I mean, it's part of the deal, but, Rocco leads you to an MLS Cup, loan's over. So we'll see what happens with Rocco coming up this season. Opening in Minnesota, opening in Toronto, and it was reported that Sean Johnson was interested, or at least that had interest from DC United. And so now it appears that Sean Johnson is going to DC United. DC United signed Sean Johnson. They've signed him according to sources, and then Tom Bogert. So one of the best in the league in shot-stopping data last year with Toronto, considering that back line, that's not a surprise. I would say that Kalina and Johnson were probably the top 5 in the categories. Sean Johnson saved Toronto's bacon a lot of time last year. And I just realized I made a Canadian bacon joke. It was unintentional. So Sean Johnson leaves Toronto, and now DC has signed Sean Johnson. They brought in Ty Barabo, and they brought in Sean Nealis. So they're working. So scorer, defender, keeper. DC United's actually spending money, which was something we didn't know they had or had the compunction to do. And remember, Christian Benteke, speaking of DC United, Christian Benteke is still out on the market. So DC is spending money down the spine. Barabo, Nealis, Johnson. Benteke's still out there. Messi and friends now have Ustari and Dane St. Clair. It appears Drake Callender is going from Charlotte to Minnesota. Charlotte is apparently happy with Christian Kalina. Now, let me check Christian Kalina's salary quickly, because since we were checking salaries here with if I could spell with a K. This is what happens when I'm typing with my right hand. No, there's not an M that I typed. I hit the K. All right, so Christian Kalina, $750 base, guaranteed compensation, $788, $750. So Kalina's expensive. Charlotte gets that. They moved Drake Callender on with his $400,000 plus salary. So now you see where the changes are being made between the sticks in Major League Soccer. Dane St. Clair takes less to go to Messi and friends. Rocco's loan's not renewed. Sean Johnson leaves Toronto FC, picked up by DC United. Drake Callender in Charlotte as a number 1B, now apparently gets to be the number 1 in Minnesota. So right now, that's kind of where the rotation is with all of these players. Abby wants to know about Hoyos. Okay, so yesterday, Atlanta United picked up Lucas Hoyos on a free, spent last season with Newell's Old Boys. And so this is territory that is well known by Tata Martino. And so Lucas Hoyos, at the age of 36, comes in. It still hadn't been changed yet. His Wikipedias have not been changed. At least his bio has not been changed. So 36, and has, over the last 3 years with Newell's, 38 appearances. Before that, Vélez Sarsfield for 4 seasons. Before that, Instituto for 2 or 1. Atlético de Rafaela for 1. Instituto, 2 seasons. Originally signed by Newell's Old Boys, loaned out to both San Martin and Gimnasia ES Grima. And so international career with the U20s in 2008 and 2009. So free agent signing at the age of 36. And so you have you're picking up a 36-year-old keeper on a free. I don't know what the salary figure is yet. The PA will announce that probably early in the season. So history is there. Experienced Argentine keeper, coming off a couple of injuries, injury absences last season. So time in the Primera and all the way through to Vélez Sarsfield. So that's Lucas Hoyos. And Hoyos was going to be much like the situation that we were discussing with Rocco and Oscar Ustari. You have the same kind of thing happening in Atlanta. And so, yes, if the Argentine flag is available to you, it's already on display, then you're covered. So Lucas Hoyos, 6 caps in the U20s in 08 and 09. So experienced keeper, a lot of time at Newell's, a lot of time in the Argentine system. Newell's, Vélez Sarsfield, Instituto, Rafaela, and then back with Instituto, and a couple of loans. Signed by Newell's, went back to Newell's for the last 2 seasons, 38 matches in the last 2 years. So he's there to be a voice of experience for Jaden Hibbert and someone who will be there for alternate competitions, maybe a spot start here and there. And that's just the broad brush. If, and like I said, and this is just if, this is covering all of our bases here. If Lucas Hoyos ends up being better in a week at practice than Jaden Hibbert, then Hoyos may start. But like I said, that's in the week. This is adding depth at the position. And okay, so Abby's covered with the Argentine flag with coaches and Gajardo. So it is adding depth at the position because, once again, you don't have Josh Cohen anymore. Quentin Westberg has obviously retired. And so depth at the position, Brad Gazan is retired as well. You now have that experienced keeper to come in behind Jaden Hibbert and Lucas Hoyos. And you also have him as that bridge for Ransom and Donaldson and the pipeline that is there for the keepers in the academy. Hoyos is the experienced guy who gets to be the voice of experience at the age of 36. So Lucas Hoyos comes in on a free after his time with Newell's was up, and so he's going to come into camp. He'll challenge for the number one spot. So we'll see where it all lays out when it comes to Lucas Hoyos. I hope that answers the question where Lucas Hoyos is concerned. So Lucas Hoyos signed and locked in place for Atlanta United come the 26th season. I think it's the 26th year, if I remember correctly. Let me look it up real quick. I think it was 26, and it was a deal for options for 27 and 27, 28. So it is a 1 plus 1. Jordan, I hope to have a happy holidays. And same to you and everyone there as well. So it is a 1-year deal with options for 2 more. Options involving the 27 and then the bridge to the 27, 28. So it is a 1 plus 1 plus 1. Options for 2 more. And so we'll see. Because Hoyos, obviously, we know about keepers aging differently than the rest of us. So 1-year deal, option 27, 27, and 28. So that's what you're looking at with Lucas Hoyos. No word on any kind of a salary figure or anything like that. But obviously, it is entirely too early to come up with those numbers. Getting ready to come out for the second half with Algeria and Sudan. Boxing Day scarf exchange. Yes, that is also a part of anything and everything that is. Go to the Boxing Day scarf exchange and on Friday, show me or let me know, or if you want to shoot pictures or anything, just post on social the exchanges that you guys have when it comes to the scarf exchange. D Graham, can somebody do an exchange for D Graham, because D Graham's working. I mean, D Graham's working today. Wow. All right, so let me see if there's anything else going on before we get out of here today. Let's see. So Arsenal moved on 8-7 in PKs. Bonmati is aiming for an April return to training. Oh, yeah. Chris Richards stretchered off in the Gummy Bear Cup. And basically the center ref, I believe, told Chris Richards, no, you got to go because your foot's bleeding. He was stomped on. So Oliver Glasner said he got a knock on his foot and someone stamped on his foot. Had to be stitched. Don't know how many stitches, but a few. Doctor told me it didn't look so bad, so I'm hopeful. Don't know if he'll be back for Spurs, but I hope he'll be back for Fulham. So, yeah, Chris Richards leaps up in the air in the quarterfinal shootout loss to Arsenal on Tuesday. Richards leaps up to defend a cross, lands, goes to ground, taken off the field on a stretcher. So his foot got stomped on. And so that's why it's like literally, your foot's bleeding. No, you can't continue to play out here. So it's second piece of news this week involving the USMNT. Algeria leads. Riyad Mahrez scored in the second minute for Algeria, by the way. So that is start of the second half, Algeria and the Sudan, and they are in Rabat at the home stadium for the competition. So 1-0 Algeria early second half. Sudan is actually down. Yes, they're down a man. So Algeria up a man, started the second half, and that was a big clear out by the Sudanese defenders. M.A. Saeed. right now. Well airborne on that one. So Adams supposed to be out 2 to 3 months, and it looks like Chris Richards might be out just a game or two while the stitches take hold, and they try to make sure that he doesn't that everything is fine inside that foot of his as we go. So Chris Richards stomped on, and Crystal Palace out in penalties yesterday. Looks like Antoine Semenyo might be heading to Manchester City. Chelsea didn't want to pay £1 million more than the initial deal as it was listed. And so they were like, Chelsea's out. Manchester City pushing ahead for the move, set to leave the Vitality in January. Looks like clubs are going to be triggering the £65 million release clause. And Manchester City's at the front of the line, it looks like. United, City, Spurs, Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea. Chelsea apparently this morning is out. Valid for the first 10 days of the window. But you got to do it between January 1 and 10 so Bournemouth can come up with a replacement in the window. And so it looks like Manchester City might be the leaders in the clubhouse right now for Antoine Semenyo. So obviously Andoni Iraola wants him to stay, but not necessarily thinking that is going to happen. So Semenyo right now, leader in the clubhouse, looks like it is Manchester City. So we'll keep an eye on Antoine Semenyo and all of the transfers there. All right, so let's take a tour of the papers before we get out of here this morning and let you know what else is going on. Let's see. Kepa and the saves that were made. Let's see. So I'm touring the papers really quickly to see if we miss anything before we get out of here. David Moyes complaining about the PGMOL. Says it's frustrated by their reluctance to explain decisions. Well, if they were like the ACC, we wouldn't have to worry about it, would we? That's what I would love. I would love it if you had more leagues that were like the ACC when it comes to their breakdown of everything. So life and style. Let's see if there's anything with the times. You have the criticism of the tackle still that is out there. Let's see. Jamie Vardy having a second life at Cremonese. Is he going to keep them up? Right now, the answer is yes. And so that'd be kind of cool. Mickey Van de Ven Isak for the tackle that broke his fibula. And let me see. The Times may have a number. Let's see. Martha Stewart joins, and she watched Swansea's 2-1 win over Wrexham. So now you have Snoop and Martha Stewart going up against Ryan and Rob Mack. That's funny. Now it make sure that those matchups are must-see viewing with who could be in the owner's box at any given moment. So no numbers that have been attached so far. I don't want to get into the best of stuff. That'll be next week. Let's see. Kobe Manu's hopes of a January exit are dashed because of Bruno Fernandes's injury. So nothing in that paper. So let's go to this paper because I'm not going to the 3 or the 4 letter paper to get. Let's see. 8-7, by the way, in penalties was the shootout number yesterday. Ademola Lookman got the win for Nigeria after being scared by Tanzania. Let's see. What did Andoni Iraola mention here? Reiterated he doesn't want to lose Semenyo, but he's probably going to. Iraola reaffirmed that Semenyo is still a Bournemouth player despite the noise surrounding him. Andoni Iraola, situations we cannot control, but right now Antoine is our player and he's going to continue playing for us. If you ask me, I don't want to lose him. Definitely don't want to lose him. But like we always say, every time the market opens, you never know what's going to happen. Well, and you also don't want to sit there and say, yeah, we're looking forward to losing him, because then that way what you're doing is you're setting yourself up for the idea of someone else coming in with maybe a lower, everybody kind of lowering their bets. It's like, no, I'm not interested anymore. Well, but interested anymore, but what I am interested in maybe is if you give them to me a little less, going right up to the edge of the window. So you've got that to kind of keep an eye on as well. Let's see what is going on transfer wise. So mentioned Semenyo quickly. Ruben Amorim says the club has to be certain of any player they try to sign cannot make the same mistakes of the past. Spoke to Sky ahead of Newcastle's match on Boxing Day. We have space to have more players, but it's a very important thing in our club that we have a plan. We need to bring in players that we know. It's hard to know for sure that everything is going to work, but we need to be certain of the players that we bring in. So, let's see. Sunderland boss Reggie Labrie has admitted that Arthur Masuaku could leave the club in January after a slow start at the Stadium of Light. Let's see. Should Liverpool stick or twist without Isak? My guess is Manuel Danso has had a pre-contract signing in Livingston from Stayback. Let's see. Enzo Maresca refuses to comment on the Semenyo interest. Quote, I'm in love with my squad. And that's the thing. And that's the other part of all of this. AC Milan has canceled the contract of former Liverpool striker Divock Origi. When it comes to these high-stakes games of poker, what you're not going to do if you're in the buying mode is that you're going to sit there and say, yeah, I'm interested. Because then clubs know that you're interested, and they could probably get you lower than you probably could be otherwise. Then if you're not interested, or if you play coy, you play hard to get instead of hard to want. Then if you are on the side of the player that the teams want, you don't want to sit there and say, yeah, we're getting a lot of – well, you want to say we're getting a lot of interest. One, you don't want up your team chemistry heading into the Boxing Day, January window, et cetera. You also don't want to sit there and set a marker that, oh, they are listening for offers. And then you get lowballed and all that kind of stuff. So it is an economic thing. When you see these sound bites and these coaches are saying, yeah, well, no, he's our player right now. You're reaffirming to your club that, we're fine even if you come after him. But at the same time, you always sit there and say, but, if folks come to, folks are interested, you don't want to sit there and say, oh, yeah, we're interested, we're not interested, those kinds of things. So everyone coming up toward the January transfer window is going to be playing at coy. If you are the team that has the player that everybody wants, you're going to play at coy because you don't want to lower your rate because of everybody interested or by saying, yeah, market's kind of light right now. You don't want to say that. And if you're chasing after a player, you don't want to sit there and say, yeah, we're interested in this player, because then the team that knows you're interested can drive the price a little higher, and then you can also set your chemistry up a little goofier. So always keep an eye on what the coaches and the GMs and the sporting directors are saying and what they're not saying when it comes to this kind of stuff. So what they're not saying is just as important as to how they're not saying it. So keep an eye on all that stuff as we go. All right, that's it for today. Remember, and also keep an eye out. Gio Lo Celso looks like he might be heading to Messi and Friends from overseas. So keep an eye on that one. We'll keep an eye on that one as well. So no show tomorrow. Friday, it's going to be Nino Torres at 10, and at this rate, it might even be the power hours pushed to Friday. And it will have we'll see what Niko's up to and see if we can get Niko on Boxing Day at 10:30, and we'll see what the setup is going to be next week for everybody for Wednesday, and Wednesday being Wednesday, Thursday being New Year's, Friday not being New Year's. So the same setup that we have this week, we're going to try to have next week. So no show Thursday. Wednesday, we're going to slide folks forward, put folks in spots, and then Friday we'll do the same thing. So the power hour might be split, might be on Wednesday, might be on Friday, but either way, next week it'll be the same thing. But Friday, it's going to be Nino joining us to come in fully loaded, 10 o'clock on Friday. Once again, no show tomorrow. If you celebrate, have a great celebration. Make sure that the tree is either properly watered or on a timer or unplugged late at night, those kinds of things. And we hope that you get the pony and whatever else you wished for this particular holiday, if you do, in fact, celebrate it. And so Boxing Day, apparently, the Boxing Day scarf swap is on Saturday, and so you can do that as well. So we'll be back on Friday. We'll let you know what everybody got. We want to find out what you got. We want to know what you're still wanting to gift your favorite club, and we'll break it all down for you. Once again, thanks to our friends at AC Boise and Jennie Telleria for breaking down what it's like to build a kit and have it come out and have it be as received as well as it has there in Boise as they get ready for season number 1. And they're on the road in Sarasota in March. So that's going to be the first time that we get to see the whole thing laid out there for us all. All right, so we'll be back in 46 hours to break it all down for you post-Christmas. Mucho Platiel played safe, and since it is the end of the show, that means, I should make an appearance at Boxing Day. I'll be back in town. I might come and see folks. Depends on what else is going on and if I'm awake. I'll find out I'll look at the Boxing Day thing and we'll see what's going on, and I'll see if I can swing by. All right, so Mucho Platiel played safe. Everybody have a fantastic Christmas Day. If once again you do in fact celebrate it, may the day be what you wish. If it's loud and boisterous, let it be loud and boisterous. If it's supposed to be quiet, you still get your pony. May it be that. Since it's and a llama, that too, according to the boss. So if once again, played safe, everybody. Mucho Platiel. It's the end of the show. Means we get to do this back in 46 hours. Enjoy your time with your family. We'll be back with you Friday morning, 9:05 Eastern, and we'll rock and roll on a Friday here at SDH. End of the show. That means I get to do this. We'll see you later.